I stole a beer bottle to prove I wasn't the father, and the DNA results exposed the one person my family protected most. Hi, I'm Charlie, 32, and last week I exposed a family lie so big it cracked our foundation clean in half. The envelope wasn't mailed. It was just there, like a cursed centerpiece on my parents' dining table, sitting smugly next to the Sunday roast. I walked in, dripping rain from my jacket, ready for the usual lecture on why I was still single, still childless, still not like my perfect older sister, Sarah. Instead, I walked into a courtroom. Mom was dabbing at her eyes with a tissue like she just watched Beaches. Dad was silent, grinding his molars into dust. Sarah was pacing the floor with her whole righteous fury on display, like Judge Judy with better highlights. Her husband Greg, slick, smug Greg, sat in the corner with his arms folded, doing that smug little nod he did when he thought he'd won something. And then I saw her. Chloe. She looked like a memory wearing someone else's cardigan, small, tight-lipped, and nothing like the party girl I dated for 3 chaotic months 6 years ago. Back then she was all glitter, credit card debt, and tequila. Now she looked like a ghost trying to be respectable. "Sit down, Charlie," Dad said. It wasn't a suggestion. "Someone want to tell me what's going on?" I asked, standing just inside the room like it might be booby-trapped. Chloe didn't look at me. She looked at Sarah. "Tell him," Sarah said. Greg sat back with a smirk like he was about to watch the best episode of his life. "She has a son," Mom said, voice trembling. "His name is Leo. He's 6. I did the math. 6 years? 9 months of pregnancy. Yeah, that landed. Chloe finally looked up at me. "He's yours," she whispered. Just like that. My stomach rolled. "We used protection. Nothing's 100%. Sarah snapped. "God, Charlie. Don't be that guy. Don't be the deadbeat." She slid a manila folder toward me. Inside were pictures. A kid with sandy hair, big eyes, and a goofy smile. He looked familiar. Familiar enough to be dangerous. Mom started crying again. "Oh, Charlie. A grandson. We've missed so much. I want a paternity test," I said. And the room exploded. "How dare you?" Sarah shouted. "After everything she's done, coming here, telling the truth, and you just deny? She's not asking for millions," Greg added, smug as ever. "She just wants help. Rent. School. It's what men do, Charlie. We take responsibility." I wanted to laugh. But I nodded. "Okay," I said. "I need a few days to process. I'd like to meet him." Everyone relaxed. Sarah even gave me a proud little nod like I'd finally grown up. I met Leo 2 days later. He was sweet, obsessed with dinosaurs. I bought him an ice cream. Watched him run around a playground while his mother watched me like a hopeful widow. And then I wiped his chin with a napkin. Got just enough spit to test. And that's where the real story starts. The napkin went straight into a Ziploc bag the second I turned my back. I didn't go cheap. No drugstore kit. I drove straight to a private lab, paid for a rush job and legal grade analysis. Swabbed my own cheek. Handed over Leo's napkin like it was Exhibit A in the trial of my life. Then I waited. And stewed. Every day that passed, I saw that smug grin of Greg's in my head like a bad watermark. "It's what men do, Charlie." The way he said it, so damn superior. Like he was the adult and I was the screw-up. He wore that condescending smug like cologne. My gut was screaming. I dated Chloe, yeah, but we weren't exactly planning a future. And the end? It had been sudden. She got weird, distant, then ghosted me before I could figure out if it was a breakup or an exorcism. Now she shows up 6 years later with a kid, a story, and a bill? Nah. 48 hours later, I got the email. Probability of paternity, 0%. I sat there in my car, the results glowing on my phone screen like a nuclear warning. I wasn't the dad. Relief hit first. Then came the fury. Not even hot anger, just cold, surgical clarity. They'd all lined up to crucify me. My sister called me a deadbeat. My mother cried for a child that wasn't mine. My dad threatened to take me to court. And Chloe? She was already doing math on what 60 grand in back child support could buy her. They weren't just ready to believe I was the father. They needed me to be. That's when I remembered the slip-up. Chloe mentioning my promotion. A promotion I hadn't told her about. But Greg knew. And Greg had introduced me to her. Friend of a friend. he'd said. Back when Sarah was pregnant. On bed rest. And Greg had been working late. My stomach twisted. The timeline wasn't just plausible, it was perfect. Chloe wasn't trying to pin the kid on some random ex. She was covering for the one man she couldn't expose. Her baby daddy wasn't me. It was Greg. I didn't just want revenge. I wanted poetic justice. So I made a plan. Next family dinner, barbecue at my parents'. Welcome to the family, Leo. Everyone was in costume. Mom in her grandma glory, Sarah buzzing around like mother of the year. Greg? King of the grill. I watched him flip burgers with one hand, beer bottle in the other. I waited. He took a swig. Set the bottle down to adjust the steak. I walked over, all smiles, all good vibes. And when no one was looking, I palmed the bottle like a magician stealing a watch. 10 minutes later, I was gone. Work emergency. That bottle went straight to the lab. Kinship test, direct comparison. Greg's DNA versus Leo's. It cost more, but I paid for speed. 3 days later, the results hit my inbox. Probability of paternity, 99. 99%. Greg Miller was Leo's father. Game on. The moment I saw 99%, everything around me went silent. It wasn't just some bad mistake anymore. It wasn't even just a con. This was betrayal on a Shakespearean level. My sister's husband. The smug son of a bitch who lectured me on manhood. The guy who said, if it were me, I'd step up. Well, Greg. It was you. And you didn't just step out, you sprinted out of your marriage bed and straight into my girlfriend's. While your wife was on bed rest. Carrying your firstborn. Under our roof. While I was being painted as the family flake. I stared at the report for a long time. I could have just forwarded it to the family group chat. Saved myself the drama. Washed my hands of all of them. But that wasn't enough. No, I needed them to feel it. I needed every single one of them to choke on their assumptions. To look me in the eye while their world collapsed. To realize that while they were busy preaching about doing the right thing, they were standing on a landmine. So I called up my old college buddy, Jeremy. A lawyer with a flair for drama. Together, we drafted what looked like official trust documents. Impressive, complicated, legalese-filled nonsense. The kind of thing no one reads, but everyone nods at solemnly like they understand. I included one key clause in bold, just for my own private punchline. All assets contingent upon full and truthful disclosure of paternity. Then I sent a message to the family group chat. I've made a decision. I'm ready to step up. Let's meet Tuesday night for dinner. I want to sign everything. Everyone needs to be there. My mom replied with 3 heart emojis. Sarah said, I knew you'd do the right thing. Greg gave a thumbs up, because of course he did. Dinner night came. Lasagna. Candles. Wine. Celebration in the air like we were sealing a peace treaty. Chloe looked relaxed, like a weight had been lifted. Sarah was practically glowing. Greg poured wine like a host on a yacht, full of smug charm. So, he said, raising a glass. Let's get the paperwork done so we can eat. Absolutely, I said, opening my briefcase. Let's. I pulled out the trust documents first, thick and official looking. Set them on the table. Chloe, I said calmly. This is for Leo. Full tuition. Rent. Healthcare. I've included a starter fund and a clause that guarantees monthly deposits for the next 15 years. Her eyes filled with tears. Charlie, thank you. I nodded. But before I sign, I continued, I just want to be sure everyone here values honesty. No secrets. No lies. Right, Sarah? Of course. She said immediately, smiling like a woman who thinks she's about to win the lottery. Great, I said. I pulled out envelope 1. This is the paternity test I ran on Leo. Silence. Even the forks froze in midair. Chloe's face drained of all color. Sarah blinked. Greg suddenly looked like he had something stuck in his throat. I tested him because I wanted to be certain. I said. You all pressured me, called me a deadbeat, threatened me with court. So I did my due diligence. I slid the results across the table toward my father. 0% probability, I said. I'm not the father. Chloe stood up. You had no right to. I had every right. I snapped, standing too. You wanted $60,000 and monthly support for 18 years. That's not a request, That's an accusation with financial teeth. My mom was shaking her head. But he looks like you. No, Mom, I said. He looks like someone in this room. Just not me. Sarah turned to Chloe, her voice sharp. You lied to us? No, I said softly. Not exactly. She told the truth. She said the father was in this room. And then I pulled out envelope 2. The bomb. I tested a second DNA sample from the barbecue last week. From a beer bottle. I looked straight at Greg. Sarah reached for the envelope, confused, still trying to keep the narrative afloat. Then her eyes landed on the name at the top of the lab result. Gregory T. Miller. She read it twice. Then a third time. Her hands began to shake. Her lips parted. She turned to Greg, eyes wide, hollow. You, she said. Her voice was so quiet, so broken, it scared me more than if she'd screamed. You and her. Greg froze. Then, finally, the mask cracked. Sarah, baby, listen. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think, she shouted, standing up so fast her chair clattered backwards. You cheated on me. While I was pregnant. With him. And you let me believe my brother. Her voice caught in her throat like it was trying not to explode. Greg was stammering. It's Charlie, he's manipulating these tests, these don't mean anything. They mean everything, I said coldly. And they're certified. Same lab. Full match. Leo's your son, Greg. Dad stood up without a word, walked over to Greg, and boom, punched him straight in the face. Greg flew back into the china cabinet. Chloe grabbed Leo and bolted out the door. Sarah was sobbing, raw and deep. Mom was crying. Dad stood over Greg like he wanted to go for round 2. I buttoned my jacket, picked up my briefcase. Where are you going? Dad asked, breathing hard. Home, I said. I'm not a father. But it looks like you've still got a lot of family drama to work through. And I walked out. By the time I reached my car, I could still hear the screaming through the walls of the house. Greg was shouting something about being tricked. Sarah was screaming back through tears. My mom was crying like someone had died. Because, in a way, someone had. Her image of her perfect son-in-law just took a headfirst dive off a very tall pedestal. I slid into the driver's seat, closed the door, and everything went silent. That was the moment I realized something weird. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel satisfied. I felt tired. Like I'd been holding my breath for 6 years, and now that it was over, all I wanted to do was crawl into bed and not talk to a single human being for a week. Because I'd exposed Greg. Blew his whole life to pieces. Caught him red-handed trying to pass off his own kid as mine. And sure, Chloe got what was coming too. But the damage? The damage was everywhere. And I wasn't unscathed. I'd been ready to sign away a huge part of my life because my own family had basically told me I was guilty until proven innocent. They wanted me to be the father. Not because it made sense. But because I was the easiest one to blame. A week later, the aftermath began to trickle in. Sarah filed for divorce. Immediately. Didn't even blink. She took the results straight to a lawyer and pulled the trigger. The infidelity alone was enough. But combined with the DNA results? That was nuclear. It wasn't just that Greg had cheated. It was who he cheated with, and what he created. Turns out, Sarah didn't just file for divorce. She went scorched earth. She got full custody of the kids, the house, and a fat chunk of Greg's retirement, savings, and investments. She even made him sign over the SUV. Greg's company, remember, the one with the squeaky clean image and the family values clause in their executive contracts? Yeah. They fired him. Quietly, but completely. No reference, no parachute. Just gone. The story came out, too. During the proceedings. Apparently some reporter or legal blogger got hold of the court filings. There was an entire article titled, "Man Cheats on Pregnant Wife, Tricks Brother-in-Law into Accepting Paternity." It made the rounds. Not viral, but just enough to make sure Greg couldn't show his face at his golf club again. I heard he moved into a one-bedroom apartment in a rough neighborhood 2 towns over. Drove an old Civic. Tried to freelance as a consultant, but nobody wanted to hire the guy whose biggest talent seemed to be screwing over his family. Chloe tried to sue him for child support. But since he was now jobless and hemorrhaging money to Sarah, all she got was scraps. Compared to what she would have gotten from me, it was night and day. Last I heard, she was working 2 shifts at a diner and renting a basement suite. She'd cut contact with Sarah entirely. Not that I blamed Sarah. Speaking of my sister, she texted me 2 weeks after the explosion. Just one word. Thanks. No apology. No explanation. Just that. I left her on read. A few days later, Mom and Dad came to visit. It was awkward. Like 2 people tiptoeing across a minefield while trying to serve you banana bread. We're sorry, Mom said, setting down a plastic container of lasagna like it was a peace offering. Dad stared at the floor. We should have trusted you. You didn't even ask me, I said. You just decided I was the problem. We were desperate, she whispered. We wanted it to be true. A grandchild. Something to fix everything. I stared at her for a second. You almost sacrificed your son to fix your family, I said quietly. That's not desperation. That's delusion. Dad flinched. Mom looked away. We'd like to start over, she said softly. Sunday dinners are cancelled, I replied. Indefinitely. They left in silence. No more pot roasts. No more lectures about being single. Just peace and space. 3 months passed. And then one night, while I was pumping gas on my way home from a job site, I saw him. Greg. He looked like crap. Puffy, bloated, scraggly beard, and wearing the same Patagonia jacket he used to brag cost more than my rent. His Tesla was gone, replaced by a dented Civic with a cracked bumper. He spotted me. His eyes lit up with hate. You, he spat. You ruined my life. I didn't say anything. Just kept pumping gas. You could have just paid. You make enough. You didn't need to blow up the family just to save a few bucks. I screwed the gas cap back on. Then I turned to face him. I didn't ruin your life, Greg, I said. You did that when you slept with your wife's friend and tried to dump the bill on your brother-in-law. I just turned on the lights. He stood there, mouth twitching. I got in my car. He was still standing there, under the flickering gas station lights, when I pulled away. In the rearview mirror, he looked small. Like a man finally realizing the mirror doesn't lie. The gas station encounter should have been the final scene. Curtain down. Roll credits. But real life doesn't work like that. No dramatic music. No fade to black. Just the quiet hum of consequences stretching out like a bad echo. The truth is, even after dropping that bomb on my family, I still had fallout to deal with. Especially from the people who didn't get the full story. Coworkers started whispering. A few friends, those half-friends you drink with but don't trust with your apartment key, texted me things like, "Hey man, didn't know you had a kid. Wild." I didn't respond. Because how do you even explain that? Yeah, no, not my kid. My ex-girlfriend lied. And oh yeah, turns out he's my sister's husband's secret child conceived during her pregnancy while she was on bed rest. Anyway, how are things with your fantasy football league? I withdrew. Stopped attending family events, stopped replying to group chats. I went to work, hit the gym, came home, and slept like a man digging out of an emotional bunker. Then one night, about a month after the explosion, I got a knock at my door. It was Sarah. No text first. No call. Just her on my front step, clutching a scarf like it was a lifeline. I opened the door, didn't say anything. She looked wrecked. I'm not here to yell, she said, her voice hoarse. I don't know where else to go. I let her in. She sat on my couch like she was afraid it might collapse under her. We didn't talk at first. I poured her a glass of water. She stared at it like it might judge her. Then finally she said it. I'm sorry. I blinked. It was so soft I almost didn't catch it. I was so sure. So sure, Charlie. She whispered. That you were lying. That Chloe was telling the truth. That you were just being you. I laughed once. A short, bitter sound. What's that supposed to mean, being me? She flinched. I don't know. You were always the flighty one. The bachelor. The smartass. The one who bailed on Dad's birthday last year to go to a football game. I had food poisoning. She looked away. I just assumed. I wanted it to be true so badly. The idea of Leo being part of the family. It felt like a second chance. For you, maybe, I said. For me? It was a life sentence. She nodded slowly. And Greg. Her voice cracked. He wasn't just a cheater. He was strategic. He knew. He saw the way Mom and Dad blamed you for everything. He knew if he could steer the fire toward you, he'd stay clean. I didn't say anything. Because I already knew. I felt it. Every little manipulation. Every step up. Speech. Every smug dig about maturity. Sarah wiped her eyes. I filed for full custody, she said. He's not fighting it. He just signs the papers. Doesn't even look up. Good, I said. I moved out. Me and the girls are staying at a condo near the lake. I had to sell the house. Too many ghosts. There was a long pause. I wanted to hate you, she said. But I think I hated myself more. For not asking you. For believing someone else's story about you without even checking if it made sense. That's what hurt the most, I said. Not Chloe. Not even Greg. You. She nodded. Tears welled in her eyes. I get it. I deserve that. But if there's a way back. She left the sentence dangling. I didn't answer right away. Because I honestly didn't know. Was there a way back? From betrayal like that? But I didn't shut the door in her face. I didn't throw her out. And that, I guess, was something. She left after an hour. Left quietly. Left humbled. Not with closure. But with the kind of silence that at least meant the shouting had stopped. 2 days after Sarah showed up at my door, Greg sent me an email. Not a call. Not a text. An email, because nothing says cowardice like hiding behind Times New Roman and a Gmail address. Subject line. Closure. I stared at it for a long minute before opening it. I don't know what I expected, an apology maybe. Some pathetic attempt at justification. A confession. Instead it read, Charlie, you made your point. I messed up. No denying that. But you didn't need to ruin my life to prove yours was intact. I hope you're happy. Greg. That was it. Not sorry. Not I was wrong. Not even how's Leo. Just a bland summary of a man who burned his house down and blamed the fire alarm for going off. I didn't reply. What was the point? You don't argue with ashes. Still, I couldn't stop thinking about Leo. This innocent little kid who'd been used like a piece on someone's chessboard, passed between lies and leverage, with no clue what any of it meant. So I made a decision. No drama this time. No ambush. No envelopes. I just drove out to the diner where Chloe worked. It was a sad little place, half full, sticky menus, waitresses with tired eyes and orthopedic shoes. Chloe spotted me the second I walked in. Her face went stiff. Charlie, I'm on shift. I'm not here to start anything, I said. I just want 5 minutes. She hesitated, then nodded. Walked me to the last booth in the corner. She looked older. Not in a bad way. Just worn. Like the party girl I'd once dated had finally sobered up in every sense. You want to yell? She asked. No. I want to talk about Leo. She blinked. Leo? You made it very clear you weren't interested in that responsibility. I laughed once. He's not my responsibility, Chloe. He's Greg's. But let's be honest, Greg's about as responsible as a wet napkin. She looked down. I've been thinking. I continued. Leo's 6. He's going to grow up. He's going to start asking questions. He's going to look around and realize things don't add up. You can lie for a while. But not forever. She was quiet. Do you really want him to learn the truth from a PDF file? I asked. Or from a drunk uncle at Thanksgiving? Or worse, from some classmate who Googles his dad's name and finds an article titled CEO's Secret Love Child Exposed in Family Meltdown. She winced. I'm not here to threaten you, Chloe. I'm not here for money. I'm not here to shame you. I just want you to do what none of us did from the beginning, tell the truth. She looked up slowly. Her eyes were glassy, tired. You think I wanted it to go like this? She whispered. I was broke. Terrified. Greg said he'd help, and then he ghosted me. I was alone with a baby and bills and no backup plan. When I saw you got promoted, it just seemed easier. That's the problem, I said. It was easier. Until it wasn't. Tears started falling. I'm a mess, she said. I know that. But Leo, he's good. He's smart. He deserves better than this story. Then give him a new one, I said. One with truth in it. She nodded slowly, like someone accepting a sentence she'd known was coming. "I'll tell him," she said. "Not now. Not while he's so little. But when he's ready, I'll tell him everything." I stood up. "Good," I said. "And if he ever needs to talk to someone who knows how it really went down, you have my number." As I left, she called out softly, "Charlie?" I turned. "I really am sorry." "I know," I said. "But sorry doesn't erase the blast radius." And then I walked out of the diner, the bell over the door jangling like the end of a chapter. 2 months passed. Winter came early that year, like it wanted to wash the entire city clean. Cold mornings, gray skies, the kind of wind that makes you rethink your walk to the corner store. It fit my mood perfectly, quiet, numb, a little raw around the edges. I hadn't seen most of my family since the night the truth came out. Sunday dinners never resumed. Group chat was mostly silent, except for the occasional forwarded meme from my dad, clearly sent as an olive branch he was too proud to call an olive branch. And Sarah, she kept her distance. No texts. No calls. Just radio silence. Until one Saturday morning, she showed up again. This time, with Leo. I opened the door in sweats and a hoodie, halfway through my second coffee, and there she was. No makeup, puffy eyes, arms crossed against the wind. And standing half behind her legs, peeking up at me like a shy cartoon character, was him. Leo. Sandy hair. Big curious eyes. And a Dino hoodie 2 sizes too big. "I hope this isn't crossing a line," Sarah said quietly. I blinked. "Little late to worry about lines." She nodded. "Fair." Then she stepped aside, gently nudging Leo forward. "Leo," she said. "This is Charlie. Mommy's friend." He looked up at me, squinting. "You're tall." "Yup," I said. "It's a problem every time I get into a small car." He giggled. Sarah gave me a look that was equal parts relief and apology. "Can we come in?" I stepped aside. Inside, Leo wandered over to my bookshelf and immediately found my collection of dinosaur books. I hadn't even realized I still had them, but I'd picked them up after that first park meetup, thinking I might get another chance. Then shoved them in a corner and forgot. "Are these yours?" he asked. "They're yours now," I said. He beamed. Sarah watched us silently for a moment, then sat down on the edge of the couch like it might bite her. "I didn't come here to dump him on you," she said. I'm trying to rebuild. And he's been asking questions." "About Greg?" She nodded. "He doesn't understand why Greg doesn't visit. Or why Mommy cries at night." I sat across from her. "So what do you tell him?" "That families are messy. And sometimes grown-ups make really bad choices." "Not a lie," I said. She smiled faintly. "I know this isn't your responsibility, Charlie. He liked you. That day in the park. He still remembers the ice cream. And he kept asking about the dinosaur guy." I looked at Leo. He was flipping pages like each one was a treasure map. "So you brought him here to what? Let him believe I'm still his dad?" "No," she said firmly. "We haven't told him anything. He doesn't know about Greg. Or you. Not yet. We're keeping it simple." "Smart," I said. She hesitated. "But when the day comes, when he's older, and we do tell him, he's going to have questions. And I was hoping. You want me to be one of the answers," I said. She nodded. "If you're willing." I didn't answer right away. Because part of me wanted to say no. To stay out. To preserve the clean break I'd finally carved out of all this chaos. But Leo, he was innocent. And kind. And none of this was his fault. He didn't choose to be born into a mess. He just wanted to read about dinosaurs and laugh at tall guys in tiny cars. "If he needs someone to talk to," I said finally, "I'm here. Just don't lie to him. Ever again." "I won't," she whispered. Leo came running over, holding up a book like he'd found the Holy Grail. "Can you read this one?" he asked, eyes wide. I looked down. It was Dinosaurs, the Ultimate Guide. My favorite when I was a kid. I glanced at Sarah. She gave a small nod. So I knelt down on the rug, patted the spot beside me, and said, "Let's see if you know more about T-Rex than I do." He sat close. Like he'd known me forever. And just like that, for the first time in a long, long while. I didn't feel like a weapon. I felt like a person again. It's strange how healing sneaks up on you. Not like fireworks. Not like some epic finale. It's slower. Quieter. Like the gradual easing of a tight muscle you forgot was clenched. One day, you realize you're laughing without guilt again. Sleeping without playing old conversations on repeat. That happened about a month after Leo and Sarah visited. I was at the hardware store, buying screws I didn't need, when I ran into my dad. He looked startled. Then resigned. Then awkwardly hopeful, like a guy spotting a bear and trying to decide whether to wave or play dead. "Charlie," he said, holding a bag of lawn fertilizer he clearly didn't understand. "Dad," I replied, holding a 24-pack of screws I definitely didn't need. We stood there for a full 10 seconds in the screw aisle, surrounded by retired men in confusion. "I was just, doing the yard," he said. "Winter prep." "Same," I said, holding up my bag like it proved something. Then he sighed. "Look, I know things went sideways. And I haven't been great." I didn't say anything. "I've been thinking a lot," he continued, "about how fast we all jumped. How ready we were to believe the worst." "Yeah," I said. "You practically had the custody paperwork printed." "I know," he admitted quietly. "We were so desperate for a good story, we ignored the bad facts. That hit harder than I expected. Because that's what it was, really. A family so hungry for redemption that they shoved me into a role I never auditioned for." "Mom's been crying," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "She misses Sunday dinners." "She cried when she thought I was a deadbeat," I said. "Now she cries because I'm not?" "She cries," he said simply. "She's your mom. That's the job." He shifted his weight. Looked me dead in the eye. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. Just, maybe a chance. To be better." I considered it. Then handed him the screws. "You're gonna need these," I said. "Your shed door's crooked." He blinked, then smiled. "You noticed that from the driveway?" "I'm still a structural engineer, Dad. I notice everything." We walked out together, no grand speech, no tearful hug. Just silence that didn't sting like it used to. Later that week, Sarah invited me to Leo's 7th birthday party. I almost didn't go. I didn't want to be the guy who shows up and makes the air heavy. The guy all the adults whisper about while frosting cupcakes. But Sarah promised it would just be a few kids, a bounce house, and a dinosaur-shaped cake. I showed up late. Bought a raptor Lego set wrapped in brown paper because I forgot to buy actual wrapping paper. Leo tore into it like it was the Holy Grail. He didn't call me Dad. He didn't call me anything. He just smiled and said, "Can you help me build it?" So I did. For the next 2 hours, we sat cross-legged on the floor, piecing together claws and fangs and tiny plastic bricks while kids screamed around us. At one point, Sarah walked by and dropped a juice box next to me. "You're really good with him," she said. I didn't look up. "You're not about to suggest I be his godfather or something, right?" She laughed. "God, no. This isn't the Lion King. I just wanted to say thanks. For not walking away. For showing up. I didn't do it for you," I said. "I know," she replied. "That's what makes it real." The party ended with cake and chaos. I slipped out quietly before the cleanup started. But as I was walking to my car, I heard tiny footsteps behind me. "Charlie!" Leo's voice was high, excited. I turned. He ran up, holding something in his fist. "You forgot this," he said, opening his hand. It was a tiny Lego raptor claw. I took it. "Thanks, buddy." He looked up at me, squinting against the sun. "Are you coming next year?" I hesitated. "If I get invited." He grinned. "I'm inviting you." Then he ran back to the house, arms flailing like a T-Rex doing airplane arms. I watched him go. And for the first time in this entire disaster, I realized something important. I wasn't part of the lie anymore. But maybe, just maybe, I could be part of something true. Spring rolled in like it owed me something. After a winter of silence, awkward apologies, and low-key emotional detonation, life finally started to breathe again. The air didn't feel like glass anymore. Birds were out. I started leaving my apartment windows open. The world, somehow, had hit reset. So had I. Work got busier. I finally booked the trip to Italy I'd been putting off for years. I even started dating again, not in a desperate rebound way, but in a way where I could actually look someone in the eye and not feel like I was still dragging around a suitcase full of family drama. But just when I thought it was all behind me, Greg reached out. Not by email this time. He showed up at my office. Walked in like he was applying for a job, except the only thing he was qualified for was being the worst man in any given room. My assistant buzzed me. There's a Gregory Miller here to see you. Says it's personal? I stared at the phone. Told her to send him in. Greg walked in wearing a suit that clearly hadn't seen dry cleaning since the divorce. He looked thinner. Hollow. Like a man who hadn't just lost everything, but realized it was all his fault. I won't take much of your time, he said, sitting down like he'd already been told no. I didn't offer him a drink. I came to say thank you, he said. I stared at him. You showed up uninvited to my job to say thank you? He nodded. You blew up my life. And I deserved it. I fought it. Denied it. Hated you for it. But now, I'm in therapy. Weekly. Sobriety program, too. And Leo, Chloe's letting me see him again. Supervised, but still. He's a good kid. I stayed quiet. I'm not here to beg for redemption, he added. I know I'm not getting that from Sarah. Or from you. Or even from myself, most days. But I thought you should know, I'm trying. For real this time. I didn't move. Didn't blink. Just studied him. I don't forgive you, I said calmly. And I'm not going to shake your hand or pat your back for doing the bare minimum of being a human being. But I do believe people can change. He looked down. Thanks, he said, voice barely audible. As he stood, I added, but if you ever try to pin your mess on someone else again, I won't stop at DNA tests. I'll bury you in truth so deep you'll need GPS to find your shame. He nodded. Understood. He left. And just like that, Greg was out of my life, for real this time. That weekend, I got a call from Sarah. Hey, she said. So, Leo asked if you'd come to his school play next week. His what? Yeah. He's playing a Triceratops and the dinosaur who learned to share. I snorted. Let me guess, he only wanted the part with the most horns. Obviously. She laughed. I hesitated. You sure it won't be weird? Honestly? She said. I don't care if it is. Leo wants you there. And so do I. So I showed up. Dressed in jeans and a button-down. Sat in the third row between a mom who wouldn't stop filming and a dad who kept yelling. That's my boy. Every time his kid sneezed. And when Leo came out in a cardboard costume, 3 horns glued to a bike helmet, he beamed when he saw me. After the play, he ran up, hugged my waist, and said, Did I do good? You were the most terrifying herbivore I've ever seen, I said. He laughed like it was the best compliment he'd ever gotten. Sarah joined us a moment later. You want to come back to the condo for pizza? Only if I get to fight Leo for the last slice. You'll lose, she smirked. We walked out of the school into the fading sun. It didn't feel like the end of anything. It felt like the middle of something that might finally be worth building. 3 months after Leo's school play, something unexpected happened. I got invited to career day. Yeah. Me. Charlie. The guy who was almost legally tricked into fatherhood by his ex and publicly shamed by his entire family over lasagna, that Charlie. Now being requested, formally, via a crayon-colored note in Leo's backpack, to come speak to his 2nd grade class about structural engineering. Please bring pictures. It read. And if possible, a real dinosaur bone. Or something close. The bar was high. So the next Friday, I showed up to Maple Ridge Elementary with a PowerPoint, a hard hat, and a 3D printed model of a bridge I'd made that week just to impress a 7-year-old. The classroom was chaos. Sticky desks, papier-mâché volcanoes on the windowsills, kids hyped up on juice boxes and curiosity. Leo's face lit up when he saw me. He practically dragged me to the front of the room and announced, This is my friend Charlie. He builds stuff that doesn't fall down. I saluted the class. That's the official job title, yeah? The kids were into it. Way more than I expected. I showed them bridge designs, talked about how wind and weight affect balance, and passed around my little 3D model. One kid asked if buildings ever fall on purpose. I said yes if they're designed to. Another asked if I'd ever built a spaceship. I told him not yet, but I was open to offers. And then one girl raised her hand and asked, Are you Leo's dad? The class went still. Even Leo froze. I looked at him. He was watching me carefully. Not scared. Just waiting. No, I said gently. I'm not Leo's dad. She frowned. But he talks about you all the time. I smiled. That's because we're friends. And friends can show up too. Leo smiled then. A slow, proud grin that made something settle in my chest. After class, the teacher pulled me aside. Whatever you're doing, she said, keep doing it. That boy lights up when he talks about you. And believe me, kids don't fake that. I walked out of the school into the afternoon sun, my hands full of thank you cards written in backwards letters and marker smudges. One of them said, Charlie, thank you for building bridges. You built one to me. And it hit me. That's exactly what this had become. Not just surviving the explosion, but building something new out of the wreckage. A bridge back to myself. And maybe, without meaning to, a bridge to him. It was the following week when Sarah asked me to meet her for coffee, alone. No kids, no pizza night, no Leo acting as a human buffer. We met at this quiet little place by the marina. One of those tucked-away cafes with chipped mugs and a tip jar full of handwritten jokes. I showed up early. She showed up looking like someone who hadn't slept, but was holding herself together out of sheer force of will. She sat down across from me, took one sip of her drink, and said, Greg's filing for shared custody. I didn't say anything at first. Just let the words sit there, heavy and inevitable. I thought he wouldn't dare, she added. But he says he's clean now. Got a part-time job, a rented condo, and a therapist willing to vouch for him. Let me guess, I said. He wants his image back. She nodded. He wants weekends. Holidays. Input. And Leo, he doesn't really remember Greg. But he knows of him now. How do you feel about it? She let out a shaky breath. Like I'm being punished for surviving him. That landed harder than it should have. I'm going to fight it, she said. But I won't lie, he's got enough to make it messy. I thought maybe, if Leo had more stability, more of a routine, more people on my side, maybe I could make the case stronger. I raised an eyebrow. You're circling something. She reached into her bag and pulled out a document. Folded. Creased. Not a legal form, just a single page. I want to name you as Leo's legal guardian if anything happens to me. I stared at it. She kept going. Not a dad. Not a replacement. Just someone I trust. Someone he trusts. You're the only one I know who's already proven he'll protect him, even when it hurts. I leaned back. Let the weight of that land. It wasn't pressure. It was something else. Something terrifying, but weirdly grounding. Like being handed a compass that actually pointed north. I haven't even raised a dog, I said, trying to lighten the moment. She smiled, but there were tears in her eyes. I'm not asking you to take him. I'm asking you to stand near him. That's all. Just be the person who doesn't walk away. I looked down at the paper. Then signed it. Not because I wanted to be anyone's backup parent. But because Leo already knew what most grown-ups forget. You don't have to be blood to be real. You just have to show up. I didn't tell anyone I signed the paper. Not my friends. Not my parents. Not even my therapist, who would have probably asked me if I knew what the hell I was getting into. But it felt right. Not easy, not simple, not light, but right. Like I wasn't walking into a trap this time. I was walking into a role I had already, quietly, been playing for months. Still, the shift changed something in me. I started thinking ahead in ways I hadn't since college. I looked at my apartment differently. I started cooking more, kept snacks in the cupboards I never ate, bought juice boxes during my last grocery run without realizing why. It wasn't about becoming a dad. It was about being ready if life demanded it. The next time I saw Leo, we were building a massive Lego tower in my living room. No real structure, just chaos stacked on chaos with the occasional triceratops thrown in for stability. In the middle of placing a piece, he looked up and asked, Charlie, do you ever want your own kids? It hit me like a soft hammer. Not painful, just unexpected. I don't know, I said honestly. I think maybe I already have one, kind of. He tilted his head. Who? I just smiled. This kid I know. He's short, he's loud, loves dinosaurs, and cheats at Uno. Leo grinned, then tried to look offended. I don't cheat. You totally cheat. We went back to building, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was holding back. Not my trust. Not my guard. Not my heart. I was just there, finally, completely, unapologetically present. And when Sarah texted later that night, he fell asleep with the Lego in his hand. I think he finally feels safe again. I knew she wasn't just talking about him. She was talking about all of us. Leo fell asleep on my couch last night, one hand gripping a plastic raptor, the other resting on my arm like he just knew. I didn't move. Just watched him breathe, steady and safe, and realized something I hadn't dared admit before. This is my family. Not by blood. By choice. By fire. By truth. I wasn't the father. But I became the man who stayed. And sometimes, the people who choose to show up. They're the ones who matter most.